Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Josh and you're watching Our History. Today we're going over part 2 of the life of Olive Schreiner, a prominent South African author, intellectual and anti-war campaigner. So if you enjoy this, please be sure to like, and if you're new here, consider smashing the subscribe button. If this isn't your first rodeo and you haven't shown some love to the subscribe, now is your opportunity. Thank you for watching. England and continental Europe. Olive had always aspired to become a doctor, but lacked the financial means to pursue that career path. Undeterred by this obstacle, she decided to become a nurse instead, as it did not require any upfront payment. By 1880, she had diligently saved enough money for an overseas journey, prompting her application to the prestigious Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh in Scotland. However, upon arriving in Southampton, England in 1881, her aspirations of practicing medicine were shattered due to her ailing health. This unfortunate circumstance forced Olive to acknowledge that her true calling in life would be writing, as it was the only viable profession available to her. Olive Schreiner, despite her passion for healing society's ills, realized that she could not achieve this through traditional medicine. Instead, she used her pen as a means to address the issues of her time. Her novel, The Story of an African Farm, received acclaim for its exploration of topics such as agnosticism and treatment of women. The novel also played a significant role in forming a lasting friendship between Schreiner and renowned sexologist Havelock Ellis. Their relationship progressed from intellectual debate to a genuine source of support for Schreiner. In 1884, Olive met Ellis and they attended a meeting of Progressive Organization, a group that provided a platform for free thinkers to discuss political and philosophical perspectives. This marked the beginning of Olive's involvement in a series of radical discussion groups through which she established connections with influential socialists of the era. Another significant friendship grew between Olive and Edward Carpenter, a prominent figure in the socialist movement and an advocate for gay rights. However, the extent of this relationship remains relatively unexplored. In addition to the Progressive Organization, Olive also participated in gatherings of the Fellowship of the New Life and Carl Pearson's Men and Women's Club. During these meetings, she emphasized the crucial importance of gender equality and the necessity of considering both men and women in discussions on gender relationships. In 1886, Olive embarked on a journey through Switzerland, France and Italy, after departing from England amidst some controversy. Despite the circumstances, she proved to be highly productive during this time. Olive dedicated her efforts to writing and completed significant works including From Man to Man and several allegories. Additionally, she undertook the task of crafting an introduction to Mary Wollstonecraft's influential book, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Returned to South Africa. After returning to South Africa in 1889, Olive Schreiner found herself feeling alienated from the people around her but developed a deep connection to the land. Seeking to reconnect with her surroundings, she became increasingly involved in local politics. During this time, she produced a series of articles on the land and its people, which were published posthumously as Thoughts on South Africa. Through her involvement in local politics, Schreiner formed close friendships with influential women activists Emily Hobhouse and Elizabeth Maria Maltino. These women shared similar views on civil and women's rights, further shaping Schreiner's belief and activism. Olive's involvement in Cape politics led her to association with Cecil John Rhodes, a prominent figure at the time. However, this association eventually led to her disillusionment with Rhodes. She expressed her discontent through her bitterly satirical allegory Trooper Peter Halkett of Mashonaland. One of the significant factors contributing to her disillusionment was Rhodes's support of the Strop Bill. This bill proposed the flogging of black and colored servants for relatively minor offences. In 1893, Olive Schreiner, an opponent of the Strop Bill, encountered Samuel Cronwright, a politically active farmer who shared her viewpoints on the native question, and Cecil Rhodes. This led to a deep connection between them, and Schreiner developed feelings for Cronwright. When she visited England briefly in the same year, she discussed the possibility of marrying him with her friends, despite her concerns about the potential restrictions of marriage. Ultimately, she overcame her doubts and they got married in 1894. Following their marriage, they settled on Cronwright's farm. During the next few years, Schreiner and her husband faced numerous challenges. Schreiner's declining health necessitated frequent moves, causing further instability. Tragically, their first child, a daughter, died within 24 hours of birth, amplifying their sorrow. Compounding their grief, Schreiner suffered multiple miscarriages on subsequent pregnancies. Despite these hardships, she found solace in her work. In 1896, Schreiner and her husband published a pamphlet addressing the political climate, followed by the publication of Trooper Peter Halkett of Mashonaland the following year. In 1898, the couple relocated to Johannesburg due to health concerns. Following the Jameson raid, they became known as advocates of the Republican cause amidst the brewing conflict between the Boers and the British. Olive Schreiner made attempts to persuade South African officials to avoid war, but when her efforts failed, she wrote The South African Question by an English South African, aiming to raise awareness amongst the English public. Final Days. When Women and Labour was finally published in 1911, Olive Schreiner was in poor health, suffering from severe asthma and angina. Seeking treatment, she travelled alone to England in 1913, but became trapped there due to the onset of World War I. During this time, she dedicated herself to the cause of pacifism and collaborated with prominent activists such as Gandhi, Emily Hobhouse, and Elizabeth Maria Maltino. Schreiner began writing a book on war, which was eventually published, The Dawn of Civilization. Tragically, this would be her last book. After the war, she returned to her homeland of the Cape, where she passed away in her sleep in a boarding house in 1920. Schreiner was buried in Kimberley, but following the death of her husband, Samuel Cronwright, her body, along with her baby, dog, and husband, was exhumed and reburied on Buffelskorp Mountain on the farm known as Buffelshoek near Cradock in the Eastern Cape. If you made it this far, I hope you're really enjoying this channel, and if you'd like to support the creation of more content like this, because all contributions are greatly appreciated, consider joining the channel in the membership tab or check out the Patreon link in the description below.